Hello everyone, my name is Christian. Welcome back to my hobby blog. Today I'm very excited because I've just finished, about 2 days ago, Punk Hazard on One Piece. And I don't want to go into super detail like I have been these last few arcs because I don't want to talk about this arc for an hour. But I ended up really loving this arc, which was a surprise because the two friends who I talked to who have caught up with the series, they say this is one of their least favorite arcs ever. And it's really funny because I can totally see why. Because while you read this week by week, chapter by chapter, I can see why this arc would be such a low rated one for people. Because there is so much that happens within this arc that I personally really enjoyed, and especially in a binge. But when it comes to like how I would react to this arc, if I was reading it week by week and there were, one chapter a week, I would have had such difficulty getting through this arc. And I'm so happy that One Piece exists because One Piece is something that really just streamlines all of the filler out because I do not have any interest in the filler. I only want what Oda himself has done because there's more than enough, I guess, material and arcs to go through without adding in all this filler that I just doesn't matter in my eyes. And I'm mostly viewing it sort of how I viewed filler in other anime, which is usually like they are given really cool episodes, but it has zero relevance in the main story. And if it has zero relevance, I don't really care. So that's sort of where I am right now, is that I am so happy for the people at One Piece, and I applaud them for all the work that they have put into this project because it is incredible what they have done. And I'm really enjoying it. But yeah, Punk Hazard. This will be spoilers, of course, so if you haven't read up to this point or watched up to this point, please click off because there's some pretty major spoilers in this. But just getting to Punk Hazard was so much fun. I was having just a lot of fun when they were going up from Fishman Island and going into the part of the ocean where the sun was able to touch it again. And they see this really big, like, blob fish coming at them, about to eat them, and then they catch it. And then that blob fish that was huge then becomes bait for an even bigger fish, and it comes in and bites on the hook, and then becomes bait for an even bigger fish. Like, it was so much fun. I really enjoyed the intro to this arc. I thought it was just a whole lot of fun, and after that, they try to cook up the monster, and they're unable to, and they see a podling of whales, and immediately Brooke is looking for Laboon, and this is something I was talking with Philip in our video last week in our discussion, is that one of the main things I'm really looking forward to is the reunion between Laboon and Brooke. And I really enjoyed seeing Laboon again. I don't know if it's actually Laboon or not, because everyone's sort of like, it looks like him. He has the scars on his head, but Laboon was on the other side of the red line. Like, how did he get here? If, like, there's a, big wall separating the red line from the New World and, all this. And I just really enjoyed that reunion. And even if it was really quick and wasn't really a reunion, because I don't think Brooke was able to get the full sort of experience that he wanted reuniting with Laboon, because he starts singing Binks's Brew, which was a lot of fun, but Laboon doesn't really make a reaction to it, and I was a little disappointed by Laboon not really being that important to this episode. But it was a lot of fun, this intro, because after that, they get onto the island, and it's this island of fire and ice. And this is sort of what I was, I think I was talking about in the last doc. I was like, I vaguely know of a land of ice and fire. And as a big fantasy fan, being, the Song of Ice and Fire and There's even a card in Magic the Gathering called the Sword of Ice and Fire. That's a lot of fun. Really cool enchantment card, I believe. But anyways, I really enjoyed seeing this island, and it was really fun to see Nami sort of using her weather powers that she learned from the wizards and Rathario. She uses like this big cloud bridge to get over the flames, and they get into the island proper. And everyone's there: Luffy, Sanji, Zoro, Brook, Chopper. Everyone's there. Everyone's exploring, and they sort of run into a dragon. And I was so fucking excited. I was so excited. Because I love dragons. I'm a big fantasy reader. I love Lord of the Rings. I love Malazan, which I think has the best dragons. I also love Realm of the Outerlings by Robin Hobb, which has a lot of just amazing, iconic dragons in it as well. And this dragon was actually created by Dr. Vegapunk, which I was really excited for, because I thought we would see Dr. Vegapunk this arc, but he's not on the island anymore. And it ends up that we have a distress call coming from a samurai from Wano. And Brook is like, hey, like, we met this guy before. He was in Thriller Bark. Like, let's go find him. So they try to hunt this guy down. They're attacked by the dragon. They kill the dragon so fucking quickly. And they cook him. And they're like, wow, this tastes so good. Like, this is just amazing. I was a little disappointed by the fact that the dragon was killed so early. I thought it would have more relevance to the story, but it was just immediately dispensed of and eaten. And I thought that was really funny how that happened. I was a little disappointed by it, but I think how much I laughed after that happened was worth the disappointment, because I was not expecting that. It has such a cool introduction, the flying in the skies. Luffy is, punching him and hanging on to the dragon. He notices a pair of legs, like, just stuck to the dragon on, like, its back, and it's just, like, kicking its legs. And he's like, what's this? And he, like, detaches the legs and puts it on himself, and he becomes, like, a centaur for a bit, until they have their legs sort of pop off, and it's discovered that this guy is from Wano, but he's not this Wano samurai that we met in Thriller Bark, who was Ryuma, who gave the sword Shu Sui to Zoro. So this is a whole new Wano samurai, and we get some lore talking about how the world government doesn't really go to Wano. It doesn't touch Wano. It doesn't want to piss off any of the samurai because they're really powerful samurai. And it's really fun to sort of get this slow build with Kinemon ends up being his name. And throughout this entire arc, he is looking for his son, Momonosuke. And I loved this arc. I really enjoyed this aspect of the arc. I love Kinemon. All these names are getting jumbled in my head. I apologize. But I really, really enjoyed his character. He is very honorable, and he doesn't want to accept help from any pirates. He doesn't like pirates. But he sort of realizes how useful pirates can be. And his entire arc in this Thriller Bark, or not Thriller Bark, and Punk Hazard arc is him trying to find his son, because he thinks that his son has been kidnapped and has been sort of put under a bunch of different experiments, because we end up finding out that this island is sort of like, and I don't want to bring in real world history sort of stuff and minimize real world history, but this really gave me a lot of sort of Unit 731 vibes watching this arc. And if you don't know about Unit 731, it was a human experimentation program that Japan had been conducting in China, and it was really fucked up. I just read a book about it by Hal Gold, and I would highly recommend anybody seek that book out. If I had it within reach, I would show it up. But we have this character of Caesar, who is this absolutely maniacal, disgusting scientist who thinks he's better than Vegapunk, and he wants to basically create these new devil fruits called the Smile fruit that is able to turn people into animals, into zone type, devil fruit users. And he's selling these to Kaido, or he's selling them to Joker, who ends up being Doflamingo, who is one of the warlords, or one of the warlords, and he is taking these fruits and selling them from Caesar and selling them to Kaido of the Beasts, who is one of the Yonko, one of the emperors in One Piece. And he is able to do all of this because and I think it's Akainu or Aokiji, it's one of them. I have a note in here somewhere about it. But one of them is able to... Oh, no, it's not them. It's Virgo. It's this new guy named Virgo, who is one of the Marines. And he is sort of running the propaganda side of it, where he is able to take all the reports of these kidnappings happening of these children and saying, like, yeah, no, actually, these ships sunk. These ships just sank, the shipwrecks now. Nobody survived. But in actuality... Virgo is trafficking all these children to Caesar so that he can give them these candies and sort of experiment on them and sort of make them dependent on drugs. And it's a really, really dark arc, in my opinion, because this is why I mentioned Unit 731, is that a lot of what happens, or what happened during that time that the historian sort of compiled, a lot of that showed up in this arc, and I was really struck by that Oda would use, or not really use that, but sort of explore this topic, because it is such a dark topic in human history. And I was really fascinated by the way that he was able to balance the tones of this, because there were some episodes that were really harrowing to watch, and especially when... I think it's Nami and Chopper and Nika Robin. They go into this daycare sort of laboratory building, and they find all these children who are completely dependent on drugs. And they find these giant children who are able to... They're sort of the ones in charge. They're the ones who sort of give a lot of difficulty to Chopper and Nami, because... they're trying to help these children. Chopper's a doctor. Nami is a really great leader, and she says herself that she doesn't want to abandon these children. Who would I be if they reached out and asked for my help and I abandoned them? Who would I be? And I really, really loved this. I loved everything with this. I loved sort of how affecting it was to me, because... Nami is someone who I never doubted, but this was such a insurmountable problem to face, in my opinion, because we meet this guy named Caesar, who's one of the warlords, and he is running the secret laboratory, and no one knows about it. The Marines don't know about it. Only Virgo, Trafalgar Law is here, and he's sort of involved in the storyline, and all these different characters are involved, but they don't know the full truth of it. And I really, really enjoyed this exploration of it. I completely understand why people would hate this arc, reading it week by week, chapter by chapter, but with the way that I was able to binge through it and just go at my own pace, I really fucking enjoyed this arc. I think it's one of the strongest arcs in terms of emotional execution, because there's a lot of great emotional moments, like what I mentioned earlier, of Nami declaring that she's not going to abandon these children, she's going to help them. But we also get this really incredible reunion with Kinemon, I apologize, and Momonosuke. And I really was feeling sick in the beginning of the arc, because once Kinemon is able to get all three sections of his body back together because his head is in a cell, his torso is just sort of somewhere. I think they tossed it in the water or is just sitting on a snowbank or something. And then his legs are attached to the dragon, so his entire arc is getting the body back together, and he's having to ask help from Luffy and the other pirates, and he doesn't want to help them. Or he doesn't want help from them because they are pirates, as I said. But Luffy is really sort of dealing with a lot of different opponents in this arc. Because we meet Brownbeard on this island. I'm not really that big of a fan of Brownbeard. I think he is really boring. I don't know. I just didn't connect with him at all. I really enjoyed how he was sort of half human, half crocodile. I really enjoyed that aspect of his character, but I don't know. I didn't care that much about Brownbeard overall this arc, and I'm really happy that he sort of didn't end up being a full villain, because he is being tricked by Caesar and being told that everyone's sort of... Yeah, so Brownbeard, when he first meets Luffy, he talks about how nobody likes that generation of pirates, including Trafalgar Law. And there's a lot of mentions of Basil Hawkins during this time. And he details how the history of the island, or how the history of how the island got messed up, got wrong. So basically, 4 years ago, before this arc, there was a big accident on this island. And it was a big explosion. No one knows what happened. But reports of this smiley entity starts coming around the prisoners, and ends up that Caesar had created this entity and basically turned it conscious and let it go crazy. When you combine it with fire, it explodes. So a lot of people, a lot of Marines showed up, and they were trying to, I guess, dampen this creature, and it ended up making the entire island explode. And so it became completely inhabitual, so they were unable to inhabit the island. And so Aokiji and Akainu, they chose this island because it was it didn't have anyone on the island. So that's why they chose this island about 2 years ago, just during the beginning of the time skip. They duel at this island because they think it's completely deserted. And so they mess up the island some more, and they end up creating this pretty large pond in the direct center between the ice and the fire side. And all of that fills in with water, and it becomes this really hard passage to cross, because the water is either boiling or it's frozen, and it's really hard for people to sail across. And so Brownbeard is on the other side of this pond when they first meet him, and he's on the ice side of it. And I was a little excited to see him, but it's pretty quick that we realize that Caesar has just been using everybody, has been completely manipulating what people believed in, because Brownbeard, I'm trying to remember exactly what he's like sort of trying to do on this island, like with Caesar, because he is such a loyal, I guess, ally of Caesar, and Caesar constantly, he's sort of always playing catch up when it comes to his lies. And I really, really enjoyed that. I thought Caesar was also a really cool villain. He was a bit cheesy at times, I will say. But I really enjoyed his devil fruit powers, of him being able to use sort of poison gas. And I really loved also his form where he was like a gas I guess, entity that was really long and like tall, and it was like really creepy and scary. Like that was so cool, sort of in the beginning of the arc when we get Caesar. And I really enjoyed seeing him on screen anytime he showed up. And it's during this time that we have Smoker and Toshigi also show up. And they're trying to hunt down Luffy, and they hear the snail phone sort of giving out the Wano distress call. And so they intercept it, and they're like, okay, they have to be at Punk Hazard, and no one's there on the island. This should be an easy job. And they show up, and it is not an easy job. By the end of it, the hearts are switched to Shigi and Smoker. Everybody's hearts are switched, actually, in the Straw Hats as well. And I really enjoyed that aspect of the arc as well, because I really liked sort of seeing sort of that variety. Seeing, I think it's Chopper in Frankie's body, Nami is in Sanji's body, and Sanji is in Nami's body, which is probably my least favorite part of this arc, was him constantly sort of making jokes about how he wanted to take pictures in particular ways. He was like, hey, who has a camera? I've got pictures I want to take. And it's an ongoing gag that I do not care about, and I do not like. I don't care for it. I wish it was kind of not a thing, and I know it's in every single anime, feels like. But it's really, really, it takes me out anytime he's pervy towards Nami, but especially during this time when he's in her body, in control of her body, and he's making her do so much that she wouldn't have done otherwise. And it is a nice moment when they do reunite, and she's like, you have been doing what with my body? Okay, you have to owe me this much for looking at my body, this much for touching my body. You have to pay me for all this that you've done to me. And I really like that, I guess. But I just wish it wasn't there. I feel like it takes me out. It takes me away from the story. I don't see why Oda has to do this. But we have this mystery character, Virgo, show up. And he's another Marine who... And as I explained, he sort of runs all of the propaganda. He runs the Marine reports. He changes them so people don't question what is going on. And he talks about how he was in Dressrosa. Trafalgar Law collapses during one of the fights with Caesar. And it's during this time that he shows up and he was like, hey, I've been in Dressrosa, and I boarded a SAD tanker in order to get here. And it ends up that Virgo is a vice admiral. So he has a lot of power within the Marines. And I really enjoy the sort of this character of Yawasugi. And he's one of the Commodores, and I believe he's in a flashback in this arc, because in my notes it says that these villagers in this town, Virgo has rescued them before. And Caesar captures Law, has him in a cage. And in this cage is also Smoker and Toshigi. We also have Luffy. And we also have... I can't remember who else was in the cage, but Chopper is just outside. And he's outside the room, he's looking in. And he's like, I want to save them, but I don't know how. If I do anything, that's it. I'm going to be captured. I'm not powerful. Caesar's going to capture me if I do anything. So what do I do? And before he does something, somebody from off screen throws a wadded piece of paper at him, and it's like, wait. All it says is wait, wait a second, don't do anything. And I believe Law does that, is sort of my theory. But it's during this time that we start seeing a lot of live streams being turned on because Caesar feels like he's able to now sell this product to people. And he tells the black market basically like, hey, we have this weapon of mass destruction. We're gonna show it off, like, tune in. And we have this short scene with all these different people in the New World who are part of the black market, sort of talking about whether they want it. And Eustace Kid shows up, and he's asked by the metal mask guy, who ends up being named Killer. He's asked if he wants to get this weapon, and he's like, let's just wait. Let's see what this does, if it does anything that, is interesting. And it's after that this cage starts being slowly lowered to the ground, and they're basically going to be dropped and killed. And they're going to basically, before they are killed and dropped, they're going to witness all of the Marines sort of get killed by this smiley creature. But it's around this time that I made the connection that Caesar looks very similar to Krampus. I wrote that note down. I wanted to not forget that because I thought that was really cool. I love the Krampus sort of folktale. I also love the movie Krampus from the 2010s. I don't know what year it was, maybe 2014, I think it came out. I can't remember. But I thought that was really fun. That was bothering me the entire arc, being like, who is this guy? Who is Caesar? Like, reminding me of. And finally, when he was, I think it was the two horns that showed up on his head that that finally clicked. Like, I think it was a particular angle that he was in that I finally made that connection. I really love that. I love how similar he looks to Krampus. So, but yeah, so Virgo ends up killing a bunch of Marines in front of Tashigi and Smoko, and everyone is getting really pissed off. We get a flashback of Caesar and Smoko meeting for the first time. We get a really, really fun moment where Luffy runs so fast through this laboratory that the ground erupts on fire from where his feet touched. And Luffy and Smoko gang up to fight Caesar and Monet. And Monet I haven't really mentioned yet because she doesn't really do that much throughout this arc. I think I can basically summarize her character as being the mysterious scientist assistant. Because she has these awesome wings. She looks like Serial from Cradle, if you've read that series. I kept thinking of Serial while I was watching this arc. And I really enjoyed sort of the mysteriousness of her, but there wasn't really anything else that I enjoyed because she's not really around. She's sitting back and sort of watching the action. And so, yeah. Law reveals to Caesar during this time that he only became warlord in order to access the sad production room, because that's basically creating all these different devil fruits, and he doesn't want that. He wants to take down Kaido of the Beasts, and that's where we end with the arc, is Law and Luffy basically make an alliance, and they're like, hey, we gotta take down the Emperors, the Yonko, and Luffy especially doesn't want to fight Shanks, but he wants to take down all of the Yonko, because he doesn't want to have them in his way. He wants to become Pirate King, King of the Pirates. So I really, really loved everything with Law and Luffy at the final few, episodes. But we have a scene with Doflamingo and Dressrosa during this where Baby 5 attacks him. And she's just really interesting character. she has entered 8 different marriages, and Doflamingo has killed all 8 of the men that she was going to marry. So I don't know what's going on with that. I'm very curious, intrigued. And we see a lot more of the Doflamingo pirates. And they are very intriguing, is all I will say. And Doflamingo warns Virgo basically not to underestimate Luffy before he goes onto the island. And says that Luffy is able to use the Conqueror's haki now. So that makes him into a big threat. So we have a lot of epic battles with Kinemon, a dragon, Nika Robin, and Usopp. And the dragon ends up being Momonosuke. And they don't actually kill him. They think they did, but they just gave him a really bad wound. And it's Kinemon himself who deals the supposed death blow. And it's when he reunites, or it's before he's reunited with his son, that Usopp tells him about a boy who turned into a dragon. And one of the other kids, I believe her name is Mocha, she was actually one of the characters I was not as invested in. I don't know why. I think it was just the group of kids in totality that I was cheering on to be rescued. It wasn't just any one of the kids. I wanted all of them to be rescued from this. But she tells Kinemon how she met his son, and he turned into a dragon and was able to escape. And he has this really emotional moment where he's like, oh no, like, I killed my son. And I was really struck by that. I was really affected. I loved that moment. Because we know that he's not dead. He's still flying around. He's talking with Chopper, I believe, at this point. Trying to figure out how to become a human again. And I really enjoyed that. But it's towards the end that Monet starts using her powers. And she has, like, the snow fruit. And she wraps herself around Luffy in like an embrace and slowly becomes like this big igloo person, and Chopper is at max transformation. And all the kids are beating him up and calling him a monster, which was emotional to watch because, as we know from, I believe it's Drum Island is the arc that he comes into, Chopper, he has a really bad problem of being othered. So he was constantly being called a monster on his island. He is helped by Dr. Howchuck. I can't remember her name exact. But that was a really sad moment, getting Luffy or Chopper being called a monster again. And he sort of has that moment where he thinks to himself like, oh no, I'm being called a monster. And he has like flashbacks to Drum Island. But yeah, so Virgo is beating the crap out of Law during this because he has the heart of Trafalgar Law. Because Law has a surgery fruit, so he's able to dissect, take out organs, sort of chop people up without killing them. It's a really cool power. I really love Trafalgar Law and all his different eccentricities, or eccentricities, is that how you say that? I think his powers are very cool, is what I'm trying to say. But Virgo is beating the crap out of him by squeezing his heart, and Smoker shows up and calls him Pirate Virgo because he recognizes that he serves Joker, who is Doflamingo. So it's at this time that Caesar reveals that he's funneling everybody into this one giant room, and he's just going to poison them all. And his ultimate goal is basically to turn giants out of humans through science. And it's around this time that Luffy is dropped into this trash pile, and he discovers a purple dragon, and it ends up being Momonosuke. And I'm really happy that he's still alive. He's not dead. But they're both really hungry is the point. And that was really, really funny to see because Luffy gets really powerful when he eats. Like, he's sort of able to channel all that energy into power. And I really love that. And we get a flashback detailing all of the journey of Momo. And ends up that he was a little bit of a mean kid to all the other kids on the ship. Because they would try to involve him in games and talking with him. And he was very like, I am training to be a samurai. I don't need friends. And he was just really sort of independent. And you can definitely see the influence of his father on that because his father is very independent and he doesn't want the help of pirates. And you sort of see that in his son as well. And it ends up that Momonosuke ended up eating one of the devil fruits that Caesar had created and became a dragon person. So that was really, really cool. I really enjoyed all of this. I just don't know how this arc is so low rated outside of the fact that you had to read this week by week. And I completely understand not loving it for that, but I'm just surprised that there hasn't really been like a reappraisal for this arc. I don't know. I guess compared to Marineford, it's like nothing, but I don't know why you would compare all of the arcs to Marineford. Like, Marineford is just so perfect in the way that it was done. And it's towards the end that we see Toshigi using Haki for the first time. And she uses it against Monet. And Zoro comes in and he uses a Great Dragon Strike and cuts her in half. And I really love that moment because we don't really see Toshigi doing much of anything in this series. And I'm really happy that she was finally able to use some sort of power because she does not have a devil fruit. She's collecting a lot of powerful swords, but she's really, I guess, underskilled and underpowered compared to a lot of these characters. But we get a really long section about Mocha sacrificing herself, and there's a lot of emotions going on, and usually I would probably be emotional as well, but I felt like it was a little much. I had basically no investment in this character, and maybe I'm just a monster, I don't know. But I really enjoyed what comes next, which is that Caesar reveals to Brownbeard that it was himself that that destroyed the island, and not Vegapunk, because Brownbeard has sort of had this vendetta against Dr. Vegapunk for a very long time. And Caesar's like, yeah, no, it wasn't him. I purposely tricked everybody because I wanted control of this island, and there's really no way to do that without doing this. So thank you for taking the fall and letting me do what I've been doing. And yeah, that was a really incredible moment. He basically just details out his entire reasoning behind this. No one's on the island. No one can sort of see what's going on. And because of Virgo, no one will ever know what has been going on. And it's not until the black market streams that I think is when people are going to really start learning about this. And I'm really excited to see where that goes. Oh, there was a really, really fun moment here. So, out of nowhere, we see Baby 5 flying on a plane guy who is named Buffalo. And she's flying with... so Doflamingo hasn't left yet for this island. He shows up basically at the end of the arc. But she flies in, talks about the getting married 8 times and Doflamingo killing them. And the towns. Not only does he kill the husband, but the entire town of that husband. And that's pretty awful. I'm very curious to see what else he has been doing. But yeah, so they call Doflamingo and they're like, hey, what should we do? And he's like, yeah, grab Caesar's body and just come right back. I can revive him. We can do something with him. And it's while they are on that call that Frankie in his big robot mode shoots down Buffalo and Baby 5. And Baby 5 turns into various giant weapons, like a giant scythe and a giant blade, and it's really fun. Monet calls Doflamingo to ask permission to self-destruct the island. And he says, like, yeah, go do that. Only Caesar will survive, and that's okay. And thank you for being a sacrifice. And so she does it. She does that, and as everyone is running away, Luffy and his friends are able to escape from the laboratory. Baby 5 and Buffalo run away with Caesar's body, and Usopp shoots them down again. And we have a mystery guy in the final, seconds of this episode who looks very familiar, but I wasn't absolutely sure. And I was very happy to find out that I was right. So what's going on? Smoker is raiding on one of the G5 ships to come, and Brownbeard has basically surrendered at this point. And he's going to go to Emperor Down. And Chopper is telling Luffy to stop Law because he's a criminal, and Brook laments dropping Kinemon because Kinemon has solidified after breathing in the poisonous gas. And he wakes up after Sanji kicks him. He reunites with the sun. It's a really great moment, as I said. And we get all of Law's plans, talking about how he wants to ally with Luffy in order to take down Kaido, who's the most dangerous animal. So he's not even a human. He's one of the animal, devil fruits. And Doflamingo finds a ship with his crewmates, and he mentions a sky path, which is the first time that I am getting any sort of answer on how people are traveling so quickly throughout the world, because this is one of my questions at the end of Marineford, is how did Shanks show up so quickly from his fight with Kaido? Because Kaido is in the New World, they were in Marineford, and, there's just so much going on. There's so much distance between those 2 points. And I think it's because of the sky path, so I'm really excited to get more details on that. But it's during the final episodes that Flamingo does show up to Punk Hazard, and he beats up Smoker, and he's like, fuck you. How dare you let Luffy get away? And Luffy's crew are completely befuddled as to why they are allied with Trafalgar Law and going after one of the Yonko. And it's during this time that Doflamingo is about to kill Smoker. And I was feeling a little sad because Smoker has been on the fringes of the series since, I think, Logtown. Maybe even before then. But this arc, Smoker really becomes a major character of this arc. And I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed his character, this arc. And I really wish, during this moment, I was really wishing that he would not die. And it's when Doflamingo throws his punch and is about to kill him that this mystery guy shows up. And who better to stop Doflamingo than Aokiji himself? He shows up. I'm very happy to see him, though. I'm very curious what he's been doing. And he says, Aokiji tells Smoker to call Akainu, basically, and threatens Doflamingo, being like, yeah, I'm more powerful than you. You can't do anything to me. Just go back to Dressrosa. Get the fuck out of here. I really enjoyed that section. So Aokiji tells Smoker to call Akainu and basically have the Marines show up to Dressrosa and help. And that's where we leave off. We have a few more scenes of Kinemon getting upset with Zoro because he's holding the sword Shusui. and he thinks that he's the one who killed a ton of people in Wano. But Zoro talks about how it's not him. It's actually Ryuma, who is the skeleton guy that we see. The crew gets a newspaper that Domingo has basically stepped down as warlord and the king of Dressrosa, because Law blackmailed him and basically was like, hey, like, if you don't back out, like, we're going to tell Kaido that we destroyed it and you're going to be completely destroyed by Kaido if you're not... Kaido's your boss. Like, step carefully. And so he backs down, and that was really fun. We get some news that the Kid Pirates, the On-Air Pirates, and Hawkins Pirates have formed an alliance, and the final scene of this arc is in Dressrosa, where we see protests happening about Doflamingo resigning, and Doflamingo is just lounging on his chair, and he receives a call from someone unknown. And the telephone is in shadow, so you can't see who's talking. Doflamingo's in shadow, and he's just smiling and like all this stuff. And he's like, "Good to hear from you," or whatever, teasing line that Oda dropped there. But oh my god, I really enjoyed this arc. I know I was very unorganized and talking about this, but I just really loved, like, everything with this arc. I don't think it's my favorite. I don't think it's top 3. But I definitely think that it's an honorable mention when it comes to the top 5. Because I really, really enjoyed this. It's great seeing the new world. We're not really that deep into it. Dressrosa is 48 episodes, according to One Piece, and I'm very nervous about that. I doubt I'll be able to finish it in a day or in a week. It'll probably take me a few weeks to watch it, and I'm just so excited. I just talked with Philip, who has just finished Dressrosa, and he mentioned in our discussion that one of his favorite moments in the series is coming up, and it's in one of the flashbacks, he said. So I'm really excited to see what that's about. So yeah, I just really enjoyed this. I feel like I was talking at a mile an hour. So my throat is definitely parched, so I need some water. But oh my god, I'm loving One Piece. I think I'll give this rating like an 8.5. It's definitely not 9 out of 10 territory, but it's definitely an 8.5 for me. I really loved this arc, so... Let me know what you think of this arc. I would love to hear your guys' explanations on why you don't like this. Thank you all so much for watching, and please have a great rest of the day.